Hey everybody, thank you very much for having me today. I hope everyone's feeling okay. I've had the worst morning ever trying to get here from Hull. Not many people know where Hull is. It's in Yorkshire. I meant to get a 7 a.m. train and get here for 10 o'clock, and I just walked in about 10 minutes ago. So fun times. So yeah, as been introduced, thank you very much for that. I work at Magic Leap in the developer relations team. So as I said, I'm based in the UK, and the rest of the team are based in Florida, in HQ, in San Francisco, in LA, and yeah, I'm working from home in Hull. So Magic Leap, HQ, Hull. Great stuff, right? So yeah, I was at Unity for 5 years as the head of evangelism. It's an amazing title. I still wish I had that title, but I'm loving working at Magic Leap. So I'm helping developers, mainly all around the EU, on board with the device, on board with the technology, and create applications. So this can be location-based applications, stuff that we're seeing in galleries and museums, stuff that we're seeing in maybe shopping malls coming in the future, as well as helping developers ship to our platform, Magic Leap World. And then we're also working with a lot of enterprise and other industries to work internally with Magic Leap as well. So today, I want to talk about two things. So first of all, the actual platform itself, Magic Leap Creator Edition and Spatial Computing, and then the work that we're doing on accessibility with the device, different inputs and outputs that you can use as a designer to target a vast audience, really. Cool. So Magic Leap Creator Edition and Spatial Computing. We kind of have this mission at Magic Leap where we want to harmonize technology and humans to create a more unified world, right? We spend a lot of time walking around, looking at our phones, and there's still quite a disconnect. It means we're disconnected from each other, and there's still kind of this screen that we're always looking at, down at, and it kind of disconnects from the world. So we want to kind of create this unified world. And how we're doing that is with what we call spatial computing. So Marco gave some amazing examples earlier on and shouted out for Magic Leap and HoloLens. So it kind of gives you and sets you precedent of what's happening on mobile AR right now and what can be and what is coming in the future for wearable AR or MR. So obviously we have virtual reality. You're fully immersed in this digital world. Then we have augmented reality, and Marco gives some great examples of why it's great so far on AR on phones, but things like occlusion and meshing of your space and location, you're still getting your phone out and having troubles with that. Spatial computing, it interacts with the physical world around you. So I can mesh out this whole area that we're in, and wherever I look, wherever I'm seeing the digital objects, they can be placed on tables and chairs and on the floor. And as we saw earlier on in the GIF with the little robot jumping from the table to the floor, that's because he's spatially aware of his surroundings. It's scanned the mesh around him. The little robot understands that it's on a table and it can jump down onto the floor. I do have my device with me today, so feel free to catch me anytime throughout the day and we can give you some demos. And Magic Leap and spatial computing we have these 4 pillars or 4 North Stars, we like to call them. And these are sensory fields, live streams, human-centered AI, and the Magicverse. Now, what do these mean? So sensory fields is how we get the information and data across to the human. So right now we have sight, obviously. We're displaying images to the user, digital images on top of the physical world. Then we have also audio and haptic. So audio feedback, full spatial 360 audio, and haptic feedback right now just to the controller. Then we have live streams. And what we mean by this is how we, as humans, are affecting the digital objects around us. Whether we're getting closer to a digital object, whether we're taking into account what we're saying or doing, and then this kind of comes into the human-centered AI. So what we want to do is create this really embedded personal experience for every single user. We're all different. We all got here differently today. We all had a different morning routine. Imagine, well, not even imagine because we're getting there, is a system which takes into account each individual user on that level and can show them different things. And all three of these map into what we call the Magicverse. And this is our cloud AR system that will have and merge multiple platforms and devices. So the Magicverse will be multiple layers within the digital twin that we can see and interact with. So I might be here with my Magic Leap device on, and we might have 10 people on iOS, 10 people on Android, some people on web, some people in VR. And everyone be able to see and interact with that same thing. Whether that's location-based, whether it's object recognition, whether it's locked down to just your local VPN at your company, or whether it's in Trafalgar Square. You can all be seeing the same things or different layers within that kind of location. Cool. So our product right now. Our product is the Magic Leap 1 Creator Edition. So primarily aimed at developers, creators, anyone who wants to get started on this mixed reality device and platform to start developing basically the future of those 4 pillars. So it comes in 3 parts right now. We have the actual light pack, which is the computer. It's got CPU, GPU, RAM, battery, and all the processing happens in our light pack. This small disk computer that we can put on our belt or on a strap. Then we actually have the lightware, which is obviously a head-mounted display, and it has various sensors, depth sensors, magnetic sensor for the controller, and this is 6 degrees freedom head-mounted display, which very light and comfortable. Like I said, I've got my device with me today for you to try. And we're going to go through a few of the inputs and outputs of that soon. And then we have the 6 degrees of freedom controller. So this is a 6-stuff electromagnetic controller, which handles haptic feedback. It's got a trigger, bumper, and a 2D touchpad. So the types of applications you can develop, we've got 2 different types of applications you can develop on the platform. The first one is landscape applications, and these are small, more likely passive applications that you can put into your living space, your office space, wherever you want, and you can have multiple of these all at the same time. And we say that these are kind of restricted to what we call bounding volumes. So we can see a kind of like a Netflix example with our little robot from the Dr. G demo, as well as this beautiful little tree. So these are all separate applications that can fill up your physical space. And then we have immersive applications, as you can imagine that you do when you open a virtual reality application. So these are basically taking the whole device and putting in an immersive application into that. So it's something that you'd build in Unity or Unreal. And these generally are taking up your whole space, not just a small bounding volume. They're taking up the whole room. They're scanning walls, floors, tables, and you can interact with characters and objects and painting tools and all sorts of stuff and create and be immersed in that experience. So what are we doing for accessibility and guiding developers who are jumping onto this platform to make their applications more accessible to users? So we really do have a commitment within Magic Leap. We have a whole accessibility team and also an accessibility board from people of different teams. So people from developer relations, from Magic Leap Studios, from people in sales and enterprise, all different parts of the company coming together to be on this board of accessibility for Magic Leap. What we've released so far is a best practice guide for developers on our Magic Leap Creator Portal so that they can include people with disabilities, so that we're designing, developing, and testing with the right people, with the right community groups. We're designing for different inputs. So like I say, right now, we have the controller, we have head pose, we have IoT devices, all sorts of different stuff, which I'll go into a bit later on. different outputs, audio, sight, haptic, and also using, obviously, our computer vision and world mesh information to help with that human-centered AI, so you're getting a more personal application, more personal experience. So internally and externally, we're working with different groups. So people with disabilities, the disability community through ARX, and also accessibility consultants. So here's a few different inputs that we can use right now on the device. So instead of just using a controller all the time, again, some people might not be able to, it's not accessible enough, we can also use input through head pose. We have eye tracking on the device. So this is an example of meshing our space just using head pose and eye tracking. We can have voice dictation and voice commands through the headset. It's got 2 microphones inbuilt into the headset, using various different voice SDKs and APIs, depending on which one you would like to use. We have hand tracking and hand poses as well. So part of the Magic Leap device, you have 15-point hand tracking on both hands and 8 predefined poses that's built into the SDK. So these are things like open hand, closed hand, L, index, C, pinch, thumbs up, and OK. So quite a varied amount of gestures to use as inputs. And then, like I said before, we're working on ways not just to have the controller. Obviously, a controller is great. But we've also got a mobile companion app, which you can use as an additional controller or just as a singular controller. So you can have use a thumb touchpad. You can use it as a 3-DOF controller. We also have a Bluetooth keyboard input and Bluetooth tablets. Again, so looking at ways that we can have not just head pose, not just control, but different inputs to allow people to input to the device. Output-wise, right now we have visual. Obviously, you're looking through the device, through the head-mounted display, 360 audio, and haptics. So some things to consider when developing for mixed reality. Obviously, this is a device which could scan this entire room, and you could put digital objects all around. But consider limited mobility, limited space, people operating from a seated position, and smaller spaces. You might be in your home, you might be in a small office, you might be in a very limited environment, but also limited access to moving around as well. What's great about the device is the world meshing and the actual spatial aspect of what the device does and creates this mesh in real time and shows, obviously, the computer vision of the assets in the space. So it's quite hard to see on this projector, but you can see the mesh all around, up the walls, around the table, so that the actual assets themselves understand the physical space. So you can go onto the Creator Portal right now and check out the best practices guide for accessibility. And also, there's various forum posts around this, around people asking us and coming to our specialists for that kind of advice on the Creator Portal. So I just want to share with you a few examples that have already been created that give people different options in-app, but also whole applications that are dedicated to accessibility. So this example is done by Weta Workshops, our game team out in New Zealand. And a few things that they wanted to allow was different abilities of users. So having stuff like aim assist or an assist beam, invincibility mode, and level difficulty tuning. This type of thing means that it's accessible for all different types of people, no matter their age, no matter what kind of experience they've had with video games before. So this example is Dr. G Invaders. So robots come out of all different walls around your environment and the floor. And you have a gun and you have to shoot them, right? And it goes really fast depending on the tuning of your difficulty. Obviously, not obviously, but I've played a lot of games before, so for me, it's a lot harder. I gave it to my mum the other day, who's hardly played games in her life, and it tuned the difficulty and allowed her to enjoy that experience through invincibility mode and the assist beam. She did nearly fall over on the floor when a robot came flying at her face, but she did okay. Also, stuff like allowing to turn on subtitles depending on the user's needs, and allowing different access to the shield, for example. So sometimes when you hold it really high up, you have the shield. You can also press the bumper to enable it as well. Another example is a whole application just dedicated to people on the autism spectrum to overcome obstacles when interacting with other humans. So this is a virtual interactive training agent. So it allows the user to go through an interview process. And we've seen a few of these in virtual reality before, but for me it feels as though when you put that headset on, you're fully immersed in a digital space. You're not also taking into account the room around you and the space that you're in. So you can see here this user's sat opposite an empty chair, and I just realized this really looks like Nicolas Cage. Does anyone else think that? It does, right? But so yeah, it's a way for people to practice job interviews and get that kind of human interaction and help to reduce anxiety. This one's one of my favorites. So this is called Magic Lines. So the story behind this is a guy who was doing research into dementia, I think it was his grandfather had dementia, and he went to ways to help him with coordination and movement just around his home. And he realized that when he puts these lines here, these kind of like plastic lines around the home, it helps with mobility and also helping the user remember why they're actually going into that room in the first place and navigation around that space. So instead of putting those around your home, why not allow the user to see that through the mixed reality device? So it's scanning the environment as the person's moving around and placing these lines, magic lines, around the space so that the user can help with mobility and getting around. First of all, their home, but why not around offices and the supermarket and just guiding them through and helping them through life. And then overall, we're really trying to get and help and get involved with the whole ecosystem. So it's not just internally that we're doing this research and kind of building a lot of these guides and best practices, but also sharing them and hearing from other leaders in the industry, from Google and Facebook and other platform providers, and how we can work together to make our platforms and the technology around us more accessible to different people. So we're working with XR Access. A lot of the accessibility team went along to there to engage with the industry, to engage with different advocacy, that's such a hard word to say, advocacy groups and associations to get involved. And I'd love to hear a lot more feedback from yourselves as well. So I'm doing very well for time here. So if you want to get started with developing for Magic Leap, so we've got the SDK for Unity. We've got various video tutorials, guides, best practices, applications, toolkits in Unity, Unreal, and our Lumen SDK, which is based on JavaScript, and as well as the Helio web platform as well. So thank you for listening to me today, and do come chat to me throughout the day. Have a good day. "20 minutes is very hard to do. Most of my talks are like an hour, so cool.
As the host, I have to say, if you come under time, you're my favorite speaker of the day. So
if you do want to hear more, check out accessibility at magicleap.com. Follow us on Magic Leap Devs, which is developer-focused Magic Leap content. And yeah, come chat to me throughout the day. I have my device, and I'm here till about 6 o'clock or so. So yeah, have a good one. Thanks.
Okay, I've got one question before you run away.
Okay, cool, yeah.
Also, I'm just going to say shotgun first on the Magic Leap. That's what I've decided. So this was a question that we had come up before and was asked again for you. And it's, what do you think are kind of the biggest limitations that are holding mixed reality, augmented reality, back from mainstream adoption?
I mean, with mixed reality, devices right now are very expensive. Like, we understand that. That's why we're aiming our devices to users in a location-based experience kind of offering. So working with museums, working with galleries, working with shopping centers, so that people who, I mean, I can't afford that device. Like, I wouldn't be able to afford that device. So going to those kind of places to experience that right now, to get ahead of the curve and see what kind of mixed reality and spatial computing is. And then in the years, as the years go by, the device is going to get, obviously, more iterations of the device are going to come. So we'll have cheaper devices, we'll have better tech, smaller devices, so that people eventually will be able to afford those. Like we've seen with virtual reality, right? Like the first Oculus and the first Vive were not accessible to users, and now you can get them from Amazon for, what, $299, $399, so.
Brilliant. Well, thank you so much. Thank you for coming on time. Really appreciate it.
No
Can we
worries,
have
no
a
worries.
huge round of applause for Josh? Yeah.